What would you do if you owned a £1 million hotel, worked in it full time, but only made £40,000 a year profit? Now, that's the situation we're going to be breaking down today. And if you want me to break down your situation in future videos, email me brandon.chieffo11@gmail.com. Now, before I begin reading, I just want to say that this is sent to me by someone I personally know, and I have removed a few details to protect their identity, but everything I'm saying is completely authentic and completely factual. So here's what they said. I own and run a hotel which is currently worth approximately £1 million. The property is completely mortgage free, and running the hotel is my full-time job. Last year I made £40,000 in profit. My husband also makes roughly £40,000 a year, but we still struggle financially at times. Recently, someone also fell over at the hotel and they are trying to make a claim against me. The situation is causing me a huge amount of stress and is making me seriously question whether continuing to own and run the hotel is worth it. What would you do in my position? Now, before we even break down the finances, let's talk about this from a emotional and personal point of view. You're making £40,000 a year with the stress of running a business, and then you've also got £1 million tied up in it. You could just go and find a job worth £40,000 a year, that pays you £40,000 a year, and get rid of all the stress. So straight off the bat, just logically, it makes sense to sell the property, let alone what the better things you could be doing with that £1 million are. So just going over the numbers quickly, you're making £40,000 a year from the £1 million investment you've got, plus your husband's making £40,000 a year. So you've got £80,000 a year coming in, plus you've got £1 million tied up. Let's say you sold that hotel, you could go and chuck that £1 million in some sort of index fund, free up all your time, so you've got the availability to go get a job or do something else on the side. Straight away from the £1 million investment, you can quite reasonably get about 8% return in an index fund. Now you're going to be walking away with £80,000 there, plus your husband's £40,000. That's going to be bringing you up to 120k a year. So before you even gone and got a job or done anything else with your time, you're already better off than you were by £40,000. You could then go and take, let's say, a 10 grand pay cut and go and find yourself a £30,000 a year job, which is actually a little bit below the average salary in the UK. And what you're going to be up to 150k a year salary. So straight off the bat, just restructuring a little bit, you're going to free up stress, and also you're going to be making more money straight away. Now that's doing it with a passive investment, chucking it into an index fund, basically forgetting about it and just taking money from the dividends and the capital growth. Now the other option, and I know these people personally, and I know they do have another property and they are into the property space. And if you'd still want to keep that exposure to the property markets and real estate, you could turn that £1 million into £250,000 property with no mortgage debt, so you're not at risk to interest rates, which we know interest rates are rising in the UK at the moment. And again, you would still probably be making between 40 and 50 grand a year, and it's not going to be as stressful as running a hotel. Now, I wouldn't normally recommend property to anyone because, well, anyone who's looking for a passive investment, because property isn't a passive investment. But running 4 or 5 properties is definitely not going to be as stressful as running a hotel, and they've already got some experience. So if they still want to have some exposure to that market, that's not the end of the world. You can get some property managers in there or run it yourself. As I said, you're still going to be better off than running the hotel. Now, if you really want to take it to another level, and I really don't recommend this to anyone who's not super experienced, you could then bring on some debt with that property portfolio. Let's say you took 50% mortgage on each of those properties, you'd be looking at like a £2 million property portfolio there, bringing in 40 to 80k a year revenue on that, plus the exposure to the capital growth of the real estate itself. Now, as I said, debt is a very scary thing to start messing around with, and in that situation, you're coming away from something super stressful. Why do you go and put yourself back into another stressful position? So personally, what I'd be doing, as I said, put the money in an index fund, make your 8% a year, get yourself another job on the side. You're bringing in 40k from your husband, 30k from yourself, plus an extra 80k in passive money. And when I say passive, I mean truly passive, not dealing with tenants or renovations or any of that rubbish. Or if you are adamant on being exposed to the property market, then I'd be looking at no debt, turning that £1 million into residential, though, as I said, residential I personally don't love it, but each to their own. Get that money invested into 4 properties, 4 £250,000 properties, or 5 £200,000 properties, and go from there. Save yourself a lot of stress and make more money than you're at the moment. So that's my quick breakdown. If you want me to review your situation in a future video, remember, email me brandon.chieffo11@gmail.com. I'll read out verbatim what you say, and then we'll break down your situation. Thanks for listening.